Hi, everyone, and welcome to Black Spaces. I am one of the hostess with the mostest. I'm Toya. I'm joined today with Taleiba and Todd, and we are here today to give you our thoughts about the hit, misses, and horseshoes of science fiction. We're going to discuss some of our faves, some of our raves, and some of our, you should have done that shows that aired this year.
Mhm.
But with all things and as popular, we want to recognize those who have went on in 2022, and we want to speak her name, Nichelle Nichols. For
Gotcha.
those who have not been aware, she joined
Under a
the
rock.
Ancestors this
Hmm.
year,
Hmm.
and
Right.
she was a
Right.
phenomenal actress. She was Lieutenant Uhura on the original Star Trek and on films that followed.
Hmm.
And her impact was definitely felt beyond just the small screen. She was instrumental in getting women and other minorities interested in space travel. She worked with NASA. So she was a tremendous influence beyond the small screen. So we will definitely miss her impact. And so Todd and Talib, y'all can join in as well and speak words.
Well, Toya, let me wish y'all a happy New Year as we'll air this around the New Year's Eve or around the New Year. But yeah, as we go forward in that Sankofa tradition, you go backwards in order to go forwards, and so to do that to Nichelle Nichols is very important for all the ways in which she was sort of a pioneering spirit, in the broadest sense of that word. That she went where no person had gone before in television, in her portrayal of blackness on TV, and this idea of Afrofuturism of being able to imagine a black future. Well, Nichelle was the sort of enormous in terms of her influence, and Octavia Butler and legions of others were inspired by her example. So yeah, we speak her name because of how very important she was, not only to Star Trek, but just to science fiction, speculative fiction, Black imagination overall. So thank you, Nichelle Nichols, again, now our ancestor, for what you've given to all of us. So.
Right. I have to totally agree because a lot of 2022 just has so many female lead roles. So, and
That's
it's
right.
like to
That's right.
look back at from that vantage point, in time until 2022, how the evolution of us in film and cinematography overall.
Mm-hmm.
So now that we've recognized those that have gone on, let's talk about what the Nichelle Nichols brought forth and allowed to happen. So what, Todd, was some of your high points of this year's watching? What did you get into? What did you give thumbs up to?
Okay, let's see. I got a list of 20. How long we got? I'm kidding.
22 for 22.
Or 22 for 22. Okay, well, I know we had our conversation prior to the show. And so I'll give what I think this is my category of best in terms of representation, because we in Black Spaces have long talked about the unique critique we bring to Black sci-fi, but particularly from an Black LGBT queer perspective. And so let me throw out I'm just going to name them the best in terms of race, gender, gender identity, sexual orientation, representation with regards to sci-fi and fantasy. So number one, I don't know if there's going to be a drum roll in the background or whatever, but number one, thank you, Taleiba. We probably all agree is Wakanda Forever, but we'll get back to that. So that's the number one. In terms of number two, I would say most directly would be Star Trek Discovery, and we'll get into the role with Michael Burnham. Then, um, then, although I have only watched a few episodes because I'm cheap and I didn't want to get into the Hulu thing. Uh, Taleiba has convinced me, The Man Who Fell to Earth, and I agree because partly because it also takes off from John Sells' Brother from Another Planet, or there are connections between it. And so I think The Man Who Fell to Earth is a complex portrayal of blackness, certainly of the projection of women. And then fourthly, although I'll be clear that this is a little different in one regard. I think I liked the Lord of the Rings. The newest Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power. In terms of its diversity of folks that it brought to the screen. Although I made my own critique about the fact that we have a whole host of ways in which African futurism, Afrofuturism, Jujuism, with Okorafor and others, or bring in actual African lore. But at least I like the ways in which it tried to move the lore forward in a way that folks shouldn't complain. Well, Tolkien wouldn't have had it this way. Well, shoot, we can't have black elves anyway. So I think those are my four. Or those are what I consider the best. And we'll do worse later, I know. Okay.
Yeah. Taleiba, what's on your list of
Well,
recommendations?
number one, Wakanda. Wakanda kind of hits every point that Todd is saying as far as like diversity, LGBTQ. Everything is inclusive of that, and then of course like the common theme of grief. So I really, really, really enjoy that. That is my number one. Number two, The Man Who Fell to Earth. That I did critique on it, and I stand by it because it does show African American women as lead, as being intelligent, and being able to save the world at the
Literally.
expense of saving ours to save another planet. Thoroughly enjoyed that particular series. And then my third one is Lord of the Rings. I've always been a huge fan of that because they've had diversity within all the movie lines. So to see this is even, makes it even more enjoyable. And my fourth one, I'm trying to think. I didn't have a fourth one. So
Did you like She-Hulk? Did you say She-Hulk?
The She-Hulk, that's
Okay.
right. She-Hulk, because it's like she's an attorney, even though it's about her being green, it does also show her being, you can just be who you are, period, and still be successful. And it should, look at the person and not necessarily, her Hulkism. So it really
Or
hits
Hulkishness.
home for me on those and then to your point, Todd, about the black elf, and the new Witcher they do. So that's
Oh, okay, Witcher. Okay.
a review of that one in future state. But those are my top four for 2022. So Toya, I know your list is very
Yeah, so my list is I'm gonna twice.
She's gonna pare it down for y'all.
Wakanda Forever because it
Uh-huh.
basically told a story of grief and excellence all together. I love the fact that we incorporated in the movie brown people as well as African descent people, the complexity of our relationship against the other. I love that. I also want to co-sign that my tops was the Star Trek movies that we were able. I'm sorry, Star Trek series, Discovery and New Frontier. I love the fact that they allow us to see Black representation in leadership roles, whether we were the captain of the ship or the ship's doctor. I also love the fact that we had the opportunity to see on both shows representation of the LGBTQ plus community. We had non-binary characters. We had gay
right.
relationships. We also had lesbian relationships. So I love the fact that we were allowed to see ourselves in so many different ways. I also would say House of Dragons because it gave the opportunity of representation with African Americans, well, Black people,
Mm-hmm.
It also allowed us to have allyship as well as a gay relationship. It also allowed from the perspective of conversation about women's role. Are we able to claim our sexuality and own our sexuality, or do we have to be complicit with following the male hierarchy and the
Mm-hmm.
power structure, not acting in our own benefit? And also we'll co-sign She-Hulk as well, because I love the fact that She-Hulk was like cheeky. That even though you have this woman who is attorney and apparently a good attorney,
Right.
she was still not able to be recognized for being a good attorney. She was recognized for being able to Hulk out, and
Mm-hmm.
even that she
Right.
was a Hulk, she still was defined by her relationship with men. I mean, the fact that what ended up bringing her the most grief was that men could not accept that she was a powerful woman inside and outside the courtroom. So I love the fact that even when we're being cheeky, we still have the opportunity to have conversation. And I love the fact that with She-Hulk, you had the black attorney who was her friend, who was her foil, who didn't basically let her get by without being challenged because that was the attorney that really helped her
Right.
win her case. And then, of course, it was the fabulous designer who designed, her outfit, So we were up in there making sure she looked good in court and make sure she won her case.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
So
Now,
now
now,
that we've given all the flowers,
okay, go ahead.
let's talk about some of the manure that caused the flowers to grow. So what, Taleiba, was on your, now they didn't need to do all that list for 2022 when it came to the science fiction and fantasy that was out there.
Well, even though I didn't see it, the consensus says I shouldn't watch Tom Swift. So,
No, 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 no. Go ahead, see Tom Swift. Go see
Hey,
it.
but House of Dragon, I know we talked about the diversity. I know we talked about everything about it, but I'm not just gonna say I like it because of that. It's like to me, it was just still like a drawn out story of Game of Thrones. I'm like, it went on long enough, and it gets to a point like, how much are we gonna keep stretching the storyline? So I could not get into it. I'm quite sure maybe a year from now I may sit back and actually try to watch it again. But that was my top two. Everything else I'm more or less like they're 5, 6, 7, 8 on some of the ones that we talked about, like Star Trek Discovery. Then we also talked about Andor, but for my top two, that's the one of House of Dragon for me. And here again, I could be wrong, but I typically, if it's not catching my attention, I just felt like it was just dragging more out of the storyline that I've seen before. Unlike Lord of the Rings, it keeps getting more and more interesting. Todd.
Okay, so I see, Taleiba, you and I have some agreement, and so and and it's an uncomfortable situation for me to disagree with the fabulous and outstanding uh, Toya, but for the reasons that Toya liked House of the Dragons are the reasons I push back on it, because, like, for instance, the whole question about the prince and his homosexuality. Well, the only way, it's that sort of, that, once again, that tragic gay figure, that the only way you get out of this difficulty is that you're burned to death, or at least people think you're burned to death. And it's like, must it always be the tragic figure? So to me, that was a little complicated. Is that, I mean, even in fantasy, you can't have a representation in ways that would say, even though they're bloodthirsty, they're cruel, they're power hungry, that you still could imagine ways in which, even in this power hungry world, that you could have portrayals that were relatively dignified and didn't go over the same trope about, sort of gay death, basically. So that's one thing I push back with them. I also found House of the Dragons is just like, particularly from that first episode forward. Even though I'm fascinated by it, it's well acted. It's I think it's riveting, Taleiba, in some ways. But it is like watching a car wreck because not a car wreck in the sense that it's bad, but in the sense that it's bloodthirsty and in some ways, I don't think it gets out of its misogyny problem. I really don't think it does. I think
Mhm.
that it is so misogynist at times that even when they try to have, when the Princess Rainier, what was it, the Princess Rainier? No, it was the Queen Alicent was talking to was having that conversation about why she does what she does. She still couldn't see that she was playing into the foils of men, and then Princess Rainier, who should
Right.
be the actual queen, is denied because she is a woman,
Mhm.
and the only
Right.
way that she's going to get it back is to have to kick some booty. Everything was burned.
I think
Everything
that
was
may
burned.
be the
Uh-huh.
right. I think that's exactly what it was. Because I
Yeah,
did,
yeah,
like I said, I did see some of it, and I'm just like, it just seems like it's the same
right.
broken record.
Right. So anyway, I don't know, and quite frankly, I have the same critique about the Handmaid's Tale, which is one we hadn't talked about in the sense of like, is it really getting us? You're trying to critique sexism, misogyny, but are you kind of falling into it?
Mhm.
And then there's also the racial dynamic. I think of I always struggle about blackness for
Mhm.
blackness for dollar's sake. It's
Mhm.
sort of like, well, yeah, you're black, but not there's nothing that the character doesn't necessarily have to be black. It's just more about you want more black people to watch it or more people of color to watch it. There's nothing particularly black about the character anyway. But I'll stop it right there. So that was my thing. Tom Swift, um, as Toya says, horseshoe,
Yes.
maybe distant horseshoe, in the
Huh,
sense that it
honey.
really
This is
tried
the
too
lineup for
hard
the
to
horseshoe.
be clever and really
Mhm.
kind of missed the mark and had some plot holes, even though it was sexy and da da da. And then lastly, I'll say Kenobi. I like Kenobi a lot. I like the Reva character a lot. I think the miswriting of the Reva character is why a whole bunch of Star Wars fanboys could slam on the character when I think the character didn't merit that. I think the character was complex. I think that if they had plugged in some of those plot holes of how how did she survive getting stabbed with a
Mhm.
lightsaber by the greatest Sith Lord in the universe, or nearly the greatest Sith Lord. So
Mhm.
those types of plot holes, when you don't write the character consistently, and
Mhm.
she's a black woman, you know, that just so like compounds the way in which fanboys pile on the character, similar to folks, piling on Finn. So anyway, that's why I thought that was problematic. I'll talk about Andor later because I've talked too long.
I think for me, the only one that I really was so vastly disappointed was with Tom Swift
Okay.
because it had such potential.
Hmm.
You had a gay male, a out flamboyantly gay male character who was brilliant. You also had a
Brilliant and
trans,
billionaire, right?
right, genius inventor. You
Hmm.
also had a trans man playing a trans man
Hmm.
where they had a conversation about him being a trans man and not being accepted. I mean, it had an abundance of riches, which it just wasted, because the plot lines was trying to be heavy and be creative and be sexy. You can't put everything in a blender and make a margarita out of it. It just does not work. And they were trying too hard to
Okay.
make something that was palatable, and it just
Hmm.
ended up being nasty.
Hmm.
I think if they didn't try to reach as high, maybe it wouldn't have been such a big fall. Because I think it was a distraction that you want to root for Tom. You want to have him build these fantastic gadgets and get out of these, uncomfortable situations. But then you're trying to tie it to, how you're trying to cure the gay and your
Hmm.
son
Hmm.
by
Hmm.
giving him some medication that's going to kill him. You also want to address the horrific situation where Black women are not respected when they go into childbirth. You know, you can't tie everything. This cannot be an after school special and be spectacular with the science fiction aspect. Now, I think that was my big, oh, why they even try, because they failed horribly. With the other shows like Andor and, Obi-Wan, I appreciate Disney Plus try to give us options when it
Right.
came to expanding the dynamic universe of the back and forth and side to side that we know to be the Star Wars trilogy. How much time space continuum can we break? We don't went back and forth and up and down and prior, and I can't keep up with all these different timelines. And there was opportunities to sort of expand the storyline, but I think with Reva, to the point, you came out with that fish tail braid and you fish in your black leather striding through the marketplace. But then you sort of just wimped out at the end. If you're going to try to wreak havoc and chaos and you did all this plotting to kidnap Anakin, but why don't you go through with it?
Right, right.
I appreciate you didn't want to kill a child in the desert, but still. And then where did you go after this? Everyone is gone. What is your identity now? You spent all this time, being under Darth Vader. So what do you do now? You know. So those are my horseshoes.
I throw in just a word about Andor in the sense that, and I'm not saying this, just in defense of the brothers per se, but if you look at every last one of the significant Black male characters in Andor, they disappear, they martyr, they gone. From Clem the stepfather to Lieutenant Gorn, who shot dead, to the other brother who's the part of the mix of the group, to the brother who's the betrayer, to Saw Gerrera, eventually he gonna be gone, to the Black guy who was part of the Imperial Security Bureau, who went, who mouthed off and tried to up. I'm forgetting the. I'm in trouble because I'm forgetting the Security Bureau, the main lieutenant character.
Right.
But yeah, he kind of disappeared because he tried to up her and da 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 da. So every last one, and so to me, it's interesting that plays into this critique about how is it diversity for diversity's sake, or is it diversity that actually moves the story forward, right? Is it diversity that's full of dollars?
Right. I like that.
And yeah, representation is beautiful, but representation toward what ends? Is it like, well, I got a Black character, so I mean, I don't want to say it's like a Herschel Walker thing. I want to get political, but but why should we be drawn, and how well are these characters drawn, and then how well is their demise drawn too? So to me, those are all those things that are key. Although I love Andor, I think the Andor is great, phenomenal, but to me, that representation issue.
That's been pretty consistent with a lot of movies throughout, whenever,
You're right.
So we always get killed first.
Yeah, the brother in Aliens, isn't he the first to go? Anyway,
they always get killed first. So it has been. It's like, when will that dialogue change? When will that, like you said, just don't even put us in there. Like we talked about Tim Burton, like, okay, so just don't put us in there then. So you don't have to kill us off and just
y'all be complaining for another reason.
Right. Let me wait for the next Jordan Peele movie to come out, and then we can talk about that.
Okay.
Right.
Nope. Right.
So what are we looking forward to in 2023? Todd, Taleiba, what are you looking forward to?
I'm looking for, because you dropped a nugget about Doctor Who, so I'm super excited about that. Always been a big fan of it as a kid. So that was like, we only had like 2-3 channels back then. So
right.
I always like Doctor Who from that aspect. So I haven't seen anything else yet that I'm like, oh yes. Is Avatar 3D drop. There's a lot of stuff that we could definitely talk about when it comes to that. I'll talk to you about the new Witcher, which I definitely want to do a review on that because it actually took me by surprise to have a black elf who's a lead female character into this, and then we also have an Asian presenting elf, and then we have a little woman that's that's presenting some power in this particular series. So, but it's 2023. I'm super excited to see what's to come. I know Wonder Woman that comes out 2025. I think there's going to be a new one for that.
Okay.
24, 25. But for 2023 so far, it's going to be Doctor Who.
Yeah, and I think Doctor Who with Ncuti playing the new Doctor Who as a black, queer character is going to be a second bite at the apple of what Tom Swift tried to do. So we'll see if they pull it off well this time with a black, gay queer character, a male queer character, and see if it works this time in ways that Tom Swift didn't. But it's also going to be the to me the tragedy. I'm sorry, Toya and Taleiba, we're supposed to pull forward. But once again, the tragedy with Tom Swift is it would try to be black centered, right? It tried to be something Afrocentric, steeped in black history. Doctor Who's not going to be that, but we'll see if the portrayal is going to be, a good one all the same.
So I'm excited. I have a very limited relationship with Doctor Who. My mom was a big fan. I have friends that are big fans. I just never got into the whole Doctor Who phenomenon. I respect his place in the ballroom, but it's just never been something I want to sit and watch, even when the woman doctor was announced.
Okay.
So I'm gonna see what it's given.
Right.
I like seeing black people do something that's unexpected. I like us proverbially turning over the apple cart and being in roles where they didn't expect us to show up. So I'm looking forward to Doctor Who. I'm looking forward to the next Marvel movie that comes out. I'm really love the fact that we had a Muslim character with Miss Marvel. We had the Wakanda. We had Moon Knight, which gave recognition to our Egyptian brothers and sisters and how they were represented. I'm looking to see what happened now that we have this um series of movies that dealt with grief. Let's see what comes up. So excited about that.
Right.
I'm because I'm also a Isaac Asimov fan. I'm also interested to see what they do with the Foundation series. Foundation suffers from the same set of problems that mainline sci-fi suffers from in terms of representation. But once again, we have representations of black women in these lead roles. Gal Dornick, who originally was, Asimov wrote them all as white guys, as far as we know. I mean, he's writing in the 1950s. And so it was very much like the Mad Men, it's applied to the 1950s. It was very sexist. But it will be interesting to see exactly how they carry that off. This dynamic between two black women at the center of this drama of this falling of this galactic empire. And what I like about it is it is some reference in some subtle ways to their blackness because it is a reference to Earth and so it's not like a galaxy far, far away. It's the Foundation series was a galactic empire 12,000 years in the future, but it's based upon Earth. But they sort of forgot what Earth is, and so that was the whole thing about getting back to understand Earth. So it's like taking Star Wars and applying it to Earth in some ways. Well, that's probably not the best way to say it, but yeah, but it'll be intriguing. So I think that's coming out later in 2023, if I'm not mistaken.
Now, when does the second Dune come out? Is that 2023?
It might be 24. Might be 24. Yeah, so part 2 of Dune, which is really part 1 of Dune, of completing part 1 of Dune. But to me, let me just say this because we had this conversation about I won't name any names, but we had this conversation about those who make these critique of certain films, and Asimov can be blamed, and then Lucas can be blamed, and then Frank Herbert can be blamed for all of these galactic empires, right? And so, in some ways, Wakanda represents yet another take on empire or kingdom. And so, there are African futurists and Afrofuturists who say, well, why does it always got to be the heroic individual? Got to be the king, got to be a queen. It can't be a democracy. It can't be, it's got to be a very autocratic society, which I guess is fair, although it does. Stan Lee and Jack Kirby were writing to the Black nationalism of the time and deriving Black Panther and the whole question about Black folk being kings and queens. And so it was it was taking some of that romanticization of Africa and applying it in with a Marvel lens. So, but yeah, it is always that question about, okay, why is it always an enemy? Sort of, have we gotten past the empire? Probably not. Or what far into the future?
Well, cool. So as long as we have something to look forward to, we'll never be bored.
No, we won't.
Right. And in a matter of like, as soon as the first hit is gonna be all these new, and then Super Bowl, all these new movies gonna hit us, and we're gonna have so much more. I'm excited to see, because like 2022 was super successful because we're like 2 years out of the, we're really out of the pandemic. Now we're in the endemic, and now people are actually going to the movie theaters. Like Wakanda Forever, who knows when we may ever see it streaming, because they're gonna keep it in the theaters for as long as possible, because
that's right.
People are excited to actually get out to socialize and kind of do what we do here, but more or less face to face now.
Right.
So I am excited to see what's more to come in 2023.
Taleiba, excuse me, I'm sorry. Toya, can I ask you a question?
Mm-hmm.
That's rhetorical, I know. We ask each other questions. What do you think of Kindred? I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, I saw it.
Okay. What do y'all both think of Kindred? Because I haven't seen it yet. Did they mess up Octavia in your view?
I'm gonna let Toya go first. Go for it, Toya.
I have not seen it.
Okay.
I think I had a conversation with someone, and I'm on the mindset now that I choose not to be entertained by slavery. The whole concept of time travel and her trying to bridge the gap between going back and forth in time, that just not set my interest.
Okay.
I bow down to Octavia Butler. I'm like, holla at me when you do Blood Child.
Okay.
And holla at me when you get the Parable of the Sower.
That's right.
Parable of the Pimp, of the Talent. Yeah, I got you. But with this, nah, I'm good.
It's sort of like Emancipation.
I want to go first.
God bless him for making that movie.
Okay.
I'm like, my thing with Kindred is the time travel thing is ridiculous because it doesn't tell you the origins of it. So you don't even know why it's in the house where she wasn't originally living at.
Okay.
So if it occurred in her brownstone that she served, so I would totally be sold into it. Okay. I'm not sold into the randomness and the incomplete storyline. The storyline is totally trash. And so it's like, and the way it ends, it's like, do you want to see a second season? No, I don't want to see a second season. I don't even really know what went on with the first one because of the disconnections of it, because she's being helped by a guy that she met on day one. But it's so unrealistic, and then we add the slavery aspects of it, in which someone can't come back and then they don't want to come back. It's a lot that it's like, why did we even do it? Like, if you were not prepared to actually really make it make sense, like the skeleton key make it make sense, they don't even do it. So I don't think we can ever get enough talk about slavery because we were in it for 400 years. So there's so much stuff that we think we know, and then something else comes about, and then I think we shouldn't forget about it, but we should embrace some of the historical aspects of it that shape us who we are now. So but Kindred, 2 thumbs down. I would not. It's kind of like how you guys feel about Tom Swift. I'm really Toy. There's no need.
Oh yeah. I saw the reviews.
There
from
is
people
no
I
That pan.
respected,
TV.
and I'm like, you know what? I'm good.
So I'm gonna add another, Rotten Tomato, Taleiba, to your list for
Yeah.
2022.
Oh my
But
God.
see, okay, all right. Now here's the tragedy. Octave, I've taught that book in my class entitled Race and Science Fiction. The book itself also doesn't deal with it. It's actually not a science fiction book. It's a speculative fiction book
Right.
because
I read it.
yes, you read it. Yes, yes, yes. But it works with the book because she's not trying, because the mystery of why she's transported is all about trying to save her bloodline in this very odious situation of having to of an ancestor being raped. But if that ancestor is not raped, then your bloodline disappears. So that's the so what Butler's talking about is how slavery oppresses both the oppressed and the oppressor, right?
Hmm.
But
Facts.
but you got it. But there's certain things you got. The reason why it has taken so long is it is complex, and if you mess it up, and
And they
it
did, it
appears they
seems.
did.
And there's other versions of Kindred. So like you done took
Okay,
this version and just kind of just chopped it up and microwaved it and said, let's see what happens.
okay,
Just because it's a black movie about slavery doesn't mean I'm gonna watch it.
right, right.
Or a series, so but I was totally disappointed with it even not exploring the character of the boyfriend or her friend, like really not getting intertwined and why his addiction, like is it alcohol, is it this, is it that,
Mm.
it's such an incomplete, like I'm more want to know more about him than I do want to know
About
about
Right.
Dana, the
her.
main character. Okay, all
Right.
right.
It be like that sometimes.
Mhm.
Right. I'm like, I want to know more. I wanted to know more. I would give it a shot if it was like, show me more of the dynamics of this entire time travel piece, and where is this all going to lead back to? Because the
Mhm.
mama's back.
Okay.
The end of the mother's back
Yeah,
after
and
being
who was
gone
not
for
in the book, as I recall. There was
who was
no
gone for 30 years, and I'm like, is she gonna be the same age? Will
right.
she be 70? So it's just like it just really was. It's totally incomplete. I'm sorry, I got really amped up about Kendrick because I was so
She did have
disappointed.
another worst. Yes.
So yes, that is my worst. The third, that is my worst for number three. I should have added that, but we
Okay.
weren't,
Okay.
But that is even my camera don't even.
Yes, yes, yes.
It
Knock
was
her out of
the
frame.
cover was disgusting too. Like, I don't even want to talk about it no more. It was just too much.
But yes,
Mhm.
that would have to top my number one for worst.
Okay. And that's a shame. That's a shame. It don't seem like the sisters are faring very well, to a degree. So Nichelle is spirit is speaking to us from the other side.
Right.
Yeah, we got to do better.
Yes, honey.
And Octavia, yeah. Mhm.
I think they say they're going to make more of her movie, so maybe they will
Yes.
redeem it in 2023 or 2024.
Okay. All right.
2025.
20,
Wait till
as long as we have
26 if you
something to
need
look
to.
forward to, we'll always be entertained.
That's right. That's right.
Right.
So, hmm
All right.
So this was fun. I'm glad that we had a chance to talk about our hit, misses, and horseshoes.
hmm
I'm glad that we had opportunity to have the shorts that we did throughout the year, and I know that Black Spaces will continue to provide a unique critique. And Todd, Taleiba, is there anything y'all want to add?
Yeah, I would invite folk to give comment for them to say what they think are their hit, misses, and horseshoes for 2022, and what they're looking forward in terms of 2023. So yeah, feel free, viewers, to leave comment. And if you agree with the three of us, post a comment. And if you disagree, go to another website that not a lot of people watch and post it there. Mhm.
Taleiba, you have anything you want to add?
It had popped in my mind, but I'm gonna let it go. I was gonna say the
Ooh,
movie Alice. I did not like the movie
the
because
movie
I never got
Alice.
to.
Alice.
Yeah.
What's Alice?
What's Alice?
That was the movie about the true story about the woman who was in actual slavery in the 21st century.
Oh
So
no,
they made
where
the
was
movie
that?
Alice about her life, but it did not do it justice. I know we're running out of time, but the movie Alice, it was called Alice with
Okay.
What streaming service was it on?
I'm gonna have to hit you up afterwards with
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll send it because it was
that sounds
Alice
interesting.
and
Okay.
I felt like they didn't really actually give her justice at that because the way they kind of went about the movie was here again. Let's slap it together. Let's throw it. With Keke Palmer was in it, and
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
and they threw it out there. I was just like, no, this is this is.
Right.
But it wasn't sci-fi, but it was kind of sci-fi-ish, kind of
Yeah.
like okay,
It's
yeah.
dystopian. Right.
right. So it kind of
Mm-hmm.
gave that, and that was like I would have to say that was my four. But all in all, 2023, and like I said, like Todd said, if you can agree or disagree with some of the things that we talked about today, add your input there. I am super excited for any shows to come in 2023 to actually support us because it's good to see us on the screen
Mm-hmm.
as often as possible, even at times if we do get killed off, we were there.
uh,
So, and that's what I have about 2022 and 2020. So.
All right.
Yes, I am looking forward to maximizing my streaming capabilities to find new things to talk about in 2023. I had a blast having the conversations about all the different shows that we could agree on, the shows that we didn't disagree on. I would encourage everyone to go back through and look at some of the shorts that we did, talk about the different shows. And
Mm-hmm.
again, if you have insights that you want to add, please do so. We're on all the socials, so you're seeing this on our YouTube channel. Go like and subscribe so you can get future videos. We also have Facebook pages. We also have a website. Am I
Mm-hmm.
missing any other social medias?
Those are the big ones, and
So
we
there's no
might get a little
excuse
more
for
to
you not to
Spotify
follow
too.
Black Spaces. We're
Mm-hmm.
here. We out here for you. So help
Mm-hmm.
support Black Spaces and help us to thrive.
And
That's not the logo, but that's close enough. You get it.
yeah, well, do we need to come up with a new one for 2023?
Yes. So yeah. So
Maybe we do
comments,
a contest for because our
yes,
current one is I'm
like,
having
subscribe. No,
oh
like,
comment and subscribe to help Black Spaces thrive.
yes.
But maybe we'll do a contest to see from our viewers what they think ought to be our new tagline, other than unique critique.
2023. Yes, honey.
Yes,
We're
and we'll
helping it survive. We're helping it to thrive. So let's see what happens in 2023.
yeah, I'll pay for
Oh yeah,
$10 Starbucks card as a prize. So
Yes.
let's go for it. Hey, free coffee.
You know what? Hey, gotta get the fuel to keep it going.
That's right. That's right. Mhm.
So, Todd, I'm gonna defer, and if Taleiba, you have any of the comments, I would just say that it's been a stone blast, honey, having
That's right.
these opportunities to talk, and looking forward to having more conversations in 2023.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Outstanding. Outstanding. All
See ya.
righty. Okay. All right. Y'all be well.
All right, bye.